Hello and welcome to the number one championship podcast. It's the second tier. I'm Ryan Dilks and some huge results across the division this weekend. A lot to talk about in the promotion race, relegation battle and the playoff race. Of course, I'm joined as always by the Arthur Shelby to my Tommy Shelby. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Justin, I am loving the twists and turns of this championship season. I genuinely have no idea where it's coming next. The last thing I want interrupting this brilliant ride is a flipping international break.
Yeah, and one that doesn't really matter. I know there's some World Cup playoff matches going on, but you don't really give a shit about those.
It doesn't mean much for England, does it? For the countries involved in the playoffs, I guess it does matter. So it's probably going to be more...
Fine. Let's be ignorant.
Yeah, classic us. But as far as the international break, it's probably going to be more entertaining than most, but still, I don't want it. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of things we don't want, Ryan, but you've got to put up with. Like, you don't want me here now, but you're here, but you've got to put up with it, right?
Well, say no more.
There we go, though. It's nothing. You just say nice things as per usual, but yeah, you are right. International break is an absolute drain, and as am I. That's life, right?
Well, say no more on that as well. But there we go. Let's get back onto the task at hand, because we have got a lot to talk about from this weekend in the Championship, haven't we, Justin? And if you are watching us live on this Sunday evening, then thank you so much for joining us and get involved in the conversation. We'll be reading out your comments and questions as we run through the weekend's action. And if you're here with us right now or watching afterwards, please remember to like this video and subscribe. It's the best way to help support us and the work we do. And if you're listening to the podcast version of this episode, then please take a moment to give us a 5-star review on whichever platform you are listening to us on. But let's begin with a huge clash at the top of the Championship table. Ipswich and Millwall, they played out a 1-1 draw in a meeting between third and fourth. 3-word reviews for Ipswich. Mauricio on our Patreon says, take the point. Graham says, overall fair result. James says, in our hands. For Millwall, Al says, should have nicked it. Yeah, Justin, I often look at games like this, and we've covered a fair few games like this over the years, haven't we, where there's so much at stake. They often disappoint, and, well, we didn't get a winner in this one, obviously. I thought this was actually a really entertaining game.
Yeah, what was it last season? Was it Leeds-Burnley? That was just the hardest watch you could possibly ask for.
Don't pretend like you don't know. That game is still etched on my mind. I have nightmares of having to watch that game.
Yeah, it lives rent-free with you. But this was fantastic. And this didn't go anyway as I expected. I mean, we expected the draw. We both called the draw in our preview show on Friday. But I thought this would be a chess match, but it was anything but, because it was chaotic. It was end-to-end at times. I thought Millwall played without any fear and responded brilliantly in the second half. And Ipswich, the way they approached the game in the first 45 as well was super positive. So as far as 1-1 draws at midday on a Saturday lunchtime go, this was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And a top-of-table clash, as you mentioned, fantastic. A lot at stake. Didn't look like it.
Yeah. Well, both teams had plenty of chances, didn't they? They were sort of shared out in either half. Millwall had the better chances in the second half. Ipswich had the better in the first, as you say. Without a doubt, Ipswich's best chance fell to Ivan Azon, who was denied by an outrageous save from Anthony Patterson in the Millwall goal. Justin, I genuinely think that might be one of the best saves I've ever seen.
Yeah. It was the was it Jordan Pickford the other week with Sandro Tonali? That was just...
Yeah, he did an outrageous one, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm not going to compare them, but this was incredible. And when we're talking about pure reaction, this was just unreal. And like you said, when I saw that, I was completely astonished because of where Ivan is inside the box. He's about 8 yards out, and he hits it quick, and it's a volley. So therefore, he's put his foot through it. So whatever Patterson's got to do, he's just got to react and make sure he's there. For example, it just goes to show the work that goalkeepers do on the training ground, because reflexes and reactions, that's all they do. That's hitting me square in the face, or it's going past me.
But the thing is, it wasn't going anywhere near his face, was it? How a human being can react as quickly as that and then have the agility to stop it like that is incredible. But Azon has struck it very well, hasn't he? He hasn't done much wrong there. but it's just top-class goalkeeping from someone we both love. He's a top-class goalkeeper, and it helped earn Millwall a valuable point. But yeah, Ipswich were much the better side in the first half. Millwall were the better in the second. Probably should have won it in the 90th minute when Femi Aziz had a great chance, and then Mihajlo Ivanovic hit the bar from 8 yards out. And if you're Millwall, you can't ask for a better opportunity to win it right at the end than that, can you?
Yeah, I've got two things to say about this. Firstly, it's the fact that that's proper football, isn't it? Just pure drama. It wasn't quite a goalmouth scramble, but it was a really fun period of play inside the box. And you back both Femi Aziz and Mihajlo Ivanovic in those moments to put the ball in the back of the net. But I think the weird, ironic thing is, Aziz doesn't get the right contact on his shot, and Ivanovic gets too much contact on his. It was brilliant. But also, I think the other thing I wanted to mention is the football ASMR in this passage of play was just extraordinary. The boots hitting the balls, the ball hitting the woodwork, the keeper Walton saving it, and then the fans going like in the background. It was just 65 seconds or whatever it was of just pure football ASMR. Lovely.
Wasn't 65 seconds. 65 seconds is an outrageous amount of time to think
there
was between those two chances.
I can't remember how long the clip was. I can't remember how long the clip was, but it's, I imagine it felt like 10 minutes for Ipswich fans. So there's that.
Yeah, well, despite missing that, you've got to say Millwall will be the happier out of the two with this result, won't they? Because when you keep in mind Ipswich had 9 of their last 11 at Portman Road, only lost once there all season. It was going to be a big ask for Millwall to win, and even though they did come close to getting that win right at the end, escaping with a point, got to say, very good result for Millwall.
Very good result. I guess it depends how you look at it. I know we discussed in our preview show at length about what it would mean for both sides. But for Ipswich, I think them having that game in hand is really beneficial. So them not losing this, I think, was vital, and they can afford that point because out of the teams that are up there, Millwall, Borough, and Ipswich are the only ones that have got promotion in their hands right now because they've got that game in hand, haven't they, against Portsmouth? But also they still got to play Middlesbrough as well, and then Millwall. I know Millwall have got Borough next, but they're both hoping for Ipswich to drop points, but. When you look at performance, I thought Millwall were tremendous the way they approached the game. They were fantastic. They really, really took the game to Ipswich. They pressed aggressively and really didn't let it up in that second half. It's not something I'd have expected to see from a Millwall side in recent years, and especially not at this stage of the season when pressure is so high. You sort of try and keep it tight, but they had to go for it, and they did, and they got their rewards. But getting that point at Portman Road, like we said on Friday, you had to be doing something really special to get the 3 points because only one team has gone to Portman Road and done that this season. That was Charlton, and it's a difficult place to go, but the draw was well deserved. The way they approached the game was brilliant, so I think they can be happier there. But I think Ipswich will probably be the happier out of the two sides because promotion's in their hands still.
Yeah, I think both teams will be happy, but I'd definitely say Millwall will be the happier out of the two because this is a great result for them. We've got a few comments coming in. Lionheart on YouTube says, that save got us a point from Anthony Patterson. Yep, absolutely. Danny on YouTube says, this Millwall have absolutely no reason to feel inferior to anyone in the Championship. We're not going away. And yeah, I absolutely agree with that as well. And when you keep in mind Middlesbrough drew as well, that's why I think you'd have to say Millwall have been the big winners of the weekend as far as the top two is concerned, because the odds would have suggested everything was going against them, with Ipswich being the favourites in that game, Borough being the favourites to win at Blackburn. That would have obviously been very bad for Millwall if it turned out that way, and they've come out of the weekend really with no harm done. And I just look at this as another hurdle jumped by them. You know, we say it every week with Millwall, don't we? It's become a bit of a running joke by now, but they're not going away. And most neutrals would have expected them to drop off, but every hurdle they face, they flipping jump over it like Colin Blooming Jackson. And I think a game like this against a very strong Ipswich side, yes, I know we've got our criticisms of Ipswich, but they are on paper the strongest side in the division. Millwall going toe-to-toe with them like they did here, I think stands them in really good stead for the Premier League if they do indeed get there, because they are resilient and they will not die. I know it sounds a bit cheesy and a bit cliche describing Millwall like that, but they are, aren't they?
They are. Firstly, the Colin Jackson reference from the early 2000s. So anyone under the age of 25 will have no idea what you're going on about. He was an Olympic hurdler. So, yes.
Yeah, I
Millwall,
think people may have put the jigsaw pieces together there, to be honest.
it's very specific, and I say an all reference, but one I appreciate nonetheless. But yeah, Millwall not dying and not going away. You are right to say it's a running joke, but also it is very, very true. I think a lot of teams and a lot of onlookers of the Championship will expect this Millwall side to drop off, but it's one of those where you don't underestimate what they can do. They've got a promotion-winning manager in Alex Neil. That's an important factor that we all quite easily forget about. He's a very experienced manager at this level, and he's a very savvy operator as well. And he's got a very well balanced squad. That's a brilliantly balanced squad. Josh Coburn's in a great run of form. He's got 6 goals in 20 games this season, which isn't a lot. It's not prolific, but what he does at the other end of the pitch, I know we'll get onto Middlesbrough in a moment, but he's got end product and a lot of energy, and that's something that's Millwall a long way. And they've got star players as well. Like Kamil Negley's been fantastic in the last few weeks. I've been praising him week on week and game by game. And likewise, they've got a star player in Femi Aziz who could be in the running for player of the season come May. So there's a lot of credentials there that has pushed Millwall into playoff or promotion contention, and they're not going to go away because why would they? They've been superb all season. They're not going to have a drop off at this point, surely.
Yeah, and they're Colin Jacksoning them hurdles, and they've got another big hurdle to jump over after the international break with Middlesbrough away. Although the way Borough are going at the moment, Millwall will fancy themselves, won't they? And if they come out the other side of away trips to Ipswich and Middlesbrough smelling of roses, then yeah, they will be laughing. Where does this result leave Ipswich? Justin, you were making the case that they will actually be pretty happy with how things are going. Feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, considering they were at home, but no damage done really with Borough drawing.
It's a promotion contender that they're up against here at Portman Road, and they've gone toe-to-toe with them, and you come away with a point, you shake hands, you move on, because I think both teams had chances to win the game. They never came for whatever reason. You know, the Patterson save and Ivanovic hitting the bar, and obviously Aziz with that 1-on-1 just before the crossbar being clattered. They're fine margins that just either team didn't find the other side of. But with this, I think Ipswich have got promotion in their hands, and that's very narrowly in their hands. We can say that because it's that game in hand that's really carrying things at the moment. But that game in hand is against Portsmouth, who are just on the other end of a 6-1 tonking. So that's looking like a very healthy thing right now, rather than a hindrance. So I think they'll be happy with the point. They didn't lose. They could have lost in the last minute. It could have been much worse. And doom mongering and missed chances being the centre of conversation once more. It's not the case.
Yeah, well, they would have gone above Middlesbrough if they won and had a game in hand as well. So if they did win here, it would have been an excellent position. But they're still obviously well poised. So yeah, not the worst thing. I think a concern with me with Ipswich would be how much their levels dropped after conceding in this game, because the contrast before and after was fairly significant, so much so that, as we say, it could have cost them right at the end when they probably should have conceded. I know a lot of Ipswich fans have criticised Kieran McKenna's substitutions. The decision to put Jack Clarke on the right wing in the second half was a bit of a strange one, when he has been their most dangerous player on the left in this game. Overall, though, as we say, a point isn't bad for Ipswich. It's not great either. I continue to be a bit underwhelmed by them, but they're still in a great position. And Ipswich will next be back in action on Easter Monday, because they're not playing on Good Friday for some reason, which annoyingly will mean they head into that Monday with 2 games in hand, when I just want everyone to be on the same number of games at this stage. But that game is at home to Birmingham, and Ipswich fans, we've got a lot to say about Birmingham, so make sure you stick around for the end of the show for that. Well, Middlesbrough failed to take advantage of their 2 promotion rivals drawing, because they played out a goalless draw at Blackburn. 3 red reviews for Blackburn. Mikey says, showed real fight. Blackburn Dave on our Patreon says, lovely gritty point. Jack says, we take that. For Middlesbrough, Alan says, still second somehow. Yeah, Borough are doing a really good job of messing this up, aren't they, Justin? Because it's another result where you're like, guys, come on.
Someone needs to sit down with them, put them on a chair, just sit down with them, just say, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Because for us, it's really annoying, and it's really annoying because we're going to sound so repetitive. Because you can, do you know what? You don't even have to say anything here, Ryan. Just clip up what we said 3 weeks ago. Just put it here because it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Missing chances, dominating games, dominating territory, dominating possession, and not getting anything for it. Because you look at the numbers here, 71% of the ball, they had 12 shots, which isn't as prolific as they usually are, but they are away from home against a team fighting relegation. They had 36 touches in Blackburn's box. Like I said, you're dominating territory. You're getting into the right areas. You've kept Blackburn relatively quiet, but you're still kicking yourself because you've not taken your moments. And I can go through all the moments because I've listed them here, but I don't want to because
let's not. Otherwise, it'd be a long old podcast, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
But yeah,
so,
everything you say there is absolutely true. It's definitely not to the same extent as that Bristol City game last weekend. That was ridiculous. But
it's not a one-off now, is it?
No, it's a regular theme with Middlesbrough. And look, it should be made clear, Blackburn were pretty happy with a draw. They made that very clear throughout this game. They didn't offer an awful lot throughout. They had clearly seen the game plans from recent Middlesbrough games and taken notice. And Borough didn't really have a response for it. As I say, they had chances, but it's the same end result. And it means Borough have now won just 2 of their last 8. In that time, they failed to beat Oxford, Leicester, Charlton, Bristol City, and now Blackburn. That's 5 teams in the bottom 9, Justin.
Yeah, it's it's not healthy. 1 goal in their last 3 games as well. The teams that they played in the last 3 games have conceded 150 goals between them. They've had 65 shots in 270 minutes of football against those 3 teams, and they've scored just once. Might just keep updating that stat as the weeks go on if things don't change, because frankly put, it's not good enough. Sure, when you're measuring up them, against Derby, Birmingham, teams who are outside the playoffs and looking to get into the playoffs, it's somewhat okay. But this is a team gunning for automatic promotion. Your standards have got to be higher, and they're not. And like I said, you are throwing this away by not taking your chances. And look, I feel for Kim Hellberg, and I think I said that in the last few episodes, where he can't control it because his plan A, his style of football.
He can't go up front and score the goals, can he? I'm sure he'd love to, but I'm sure he would have put some of them away as well. Because flipping heck.
Yeah, the coaching that he's doing, he's getting Middlesbrough into good areas. It's just, I don't want to say the players aren't good enough. They're just clearly in a moment that they're struggling. The confidence isn't quite there. The muscle memory of scoring goals is gone, and it's gone at the wrong time. And this can happen, and unfortunately that can derail a promotion push. And when you've got Millwall and Ipswich frothing at the mouth, waiting for a mistake, Borough have now made how many games? 6 mistakes by not winning those remaining games in the last 8. So yeah, it's not good enough.
Well, let's be frank. They should be on a similar points tally to Coventry right now. They should be winning all 5 of the games I've just mentioned there. But they don't even have to win all 5 of them. Even if they just turn 3 of them into wins, that's an extra 6 points. That puts them on 77 points, 8 points ahead of Ipswich and Millwall. Good night promotion race. Wouldn't even matter that Ipswich have a game in hand. But Middlesbrough have completely messed up their lines. And that doesn't even mention the context of how many chances they've spurned in that time. Like, genuinely, I would love to see a compilation of the chances they've missed over these last 8 games, because it would be bad. So you have to ask, why is it happening? Because it wasn't a massive problem earlier in the season. It definitely wasn't a problem when they won 6 in a row a couple of months ago. So what's changed now? Is it literally as simple as putting it down to the pressure of the promotion race? I don't know. But what I do know is I'm increasingly having my doubts over whether Borough can get promotion over the line. I mean, still have question marks over the other 2, but I think I've got a lot more with Middlesbrough, and it's been a long time since I found myself doubting their promotion credentials this much, Justin.
Yeah, they're the least convincing team at the moment. When you compare them to Coventry ramped things up, and they bounced back after a defeat and done so really well against Swansea. Millwall aren't slowing down, and again they bounced back brilliantly to I wouldn't say a poor defeat to Blackburn, but a bit of a shock result. And Ipswich continue to chip away at things as well, and have been in good form, barring the odd defensive capitulation that we've seen against Wrexham and Stoke. And frankly, at this stage of the season, from a Borough point of view, or from a team chasing promotion, you've got to be ruthless. Look how ruthless Burnley and Leeds were last season. I know you can't really make the case for Leicester the season before because it was around this time in February where they started to derail a little bit, but they found form defensively, shored things up, and were chipping away at results. And likewise, you can count through teams who win promotion, they earn promotion, and they do that by being ruthless in both boxes. But this is where your big players have got to stand up and be counted. Again, comparing them to Coventry, in their bumpy run of form, Tatsuro Sakamoto really rose to the surface and really became a pin for change of quality. Likewise did Haji Josh Coburn at Millwall as well. Who's stepping up for Middlesbrough? Who's going to be the player that steps up for Middlesbrough? I've not seen anyone in the last 3 games. I've just seen incompetency in the final third. And like I said, that's why you can doubt their promotion credentials, because that's what it's based on, and it's not there. The goal scoring form isn't there, and that's what they need right now.
Well, put it this way, if someone held a gun to my head right now and said, you've got to accurately predict who's finishing second, it'd be a strange conversation. Don't know how I get in that scenario.
Terrible.
But I genuinely think right now Borough would be the last team I'd pick out of the 3, based on recent evidence, because I've just lost so much hope with them in these last few games. We've got a fair few comments coming in from Borough fans. This is from Sam, who says, Borough fan here will probably finish 3rd or 4th. Jaden says, Borough go through patches of winning and then dropping points. They need to find consistency. Yeah, keep your comments coming in as we go through the rest of the games from this weekend. But look, with Middlesbrough, if they fail to beat 5 teams in the bottom 9, then how are they going to get on when they still have to face Millwall, Ipswich and Wrexham? Mm-hmm. Big old games for Borough. Maybe it's just a case of those teams won't sit back so much against them and Borough will flourish again, but there's a lot of warning signs for me over the past few weeks that Borough aren't going to get this over the line. But look, credit where credit's due, Justin. A great point for Blackburn, and got to be said, 4 points from a tough week where they faced Millwall and Middlesbrough. Great end result, that, isn't it?
Yeah, considering they were completely hopeless just prior to that as well, it's quite remarkable. But yeah, make no mistake, Blackburn did run their luck at times, but getting that clean sheet is important. And to point out, last week when Borough misfiring against Bristol City, they missed a whole host of chances that they should have put away. There were one-on-ones, there was clear-cut chances, etc. There wasn't that many in this game, and I think Blackburn, for Borough's domination, were relatively well drilled, and I think the game plan-wise, it did work to some extent, and obviously it got them a result, and it's a clean sheet as well against a really decent side. So coming off the back of a poor run of performances and form, you've got a level here that the players need to persist with, continue with. Just be interesting to see how things measure up, because obviously Michael O'Neill's on old Northern Ireland duty now, isn't he?
Yeah, well, his attentions have been turned away, haven't they? So how that factors into things, I don't know. But it just didn't seem to have much of an effect here, didn't it? When it'd be around here where you'd expect it to have the most effect. So, yeah, we'll see. But this result sees Blackburn move up to 19th on 43 points, 4 points clear of the bottom 3. Let's have a look back how we did with our predictions in Friday's preview show. And I haven't sealed the predictions title yet. I would have done so with a full house and a Justin Peach blank, but Justin actually got a full house. His banker was Southampton to beat Oxford. His outsider was QPR to beat Portsmouth. You found a bit of form all of a sudden, haven't you? It's a bit too late, but I got my outsider correct of Derby to beat Birmingham. No luck with my banker, which was Middlesbrough to beat Blackburn in the aforementioned game. So it means the scores for the season are 41-29. So you've managed to hold on for a bit longer, Peachy. Fair play to you.
12 points off, yeah. 12 points off, yeah. How many game weeks we got left? I think what?
Well, 4? If I better your score in the next game week, then that's it.
But you didn't better my score this game week, so let's maintain this positivity from my point of view, because I betted your score and I've just got to keep doing it till the end of the season, and maybe I might just miss out a little bit. I'm trying to work out the maths.
A little bit?
A little bit. I need
That's a 12-point gap.
I need you to draw 3 blanks in a row, and it's doable. You did that a few weeks ago, so
not 3 blanks in a row. I didn't.
I did though, and it's easy to do. So I'm confident at the moment, right? I'm bloody confident.
Okay, well, you may be confident, but as I say, if I better Justin score in the next game week, then that's it. That's all I have to do to seal the title in a couple of weeks' time. And it is going to be oh so sweet when I do. But if you're enjoying tonight's show, ladies and gents, then now is the perfect time to sign up for the second tier YouTube membership community, where for just £4.99 a month, you'll get custom emojis to use in these live streams and the comment section of every YouTube video. You'll also get access to the second tier Discord, where you can chat to us and loads of other Championship fans. Still got a fair few Sunderland fans from last season in the Discord. They are loving life after the result earlier today. And in addition to that, you'll get an exclusive bonus video from us every single week. Just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button to sign up now. Let's get on to the relegation battle, and this scoreline definitely stood out, I think it's fair to say. QPR 6, Portsmouth 1. 3-word views for QPR. Andy says Clinical Park Rangers. Jack says 666. Greg says Rampant Ruthless Rangers. Matt at our Patreon says Horse is back. Dom says Queen's Park Nayers for Pompey. Andreas on our Patreon says Black Hole Defence. Rob says absolutely utter bottle jobs. Ollie says League One again. Paul says make it stop. Yeah, we both said in Friday's show, Justin, how we thought it was a bit strange that QPR were the outsiders for this game with the bookies. But still, wasn't expecting this.
And that's before you get into the numbers of this game, which I will say in a moment. But
yeah,
an absolute hammering. Poor old Nick Schmidt in the Portsmouth goal. Ryan, he had a schmitter, didn't he? Yeah,
that is very far-fetched.
Yeah, an absolute schmitter. Yeah, he did. In all seriousness,
That's a really Schmidt joke.
It's absolutely fantastic. I was laughing when I wrote that down. Anyway, QPR scoring.
Is everything all right?
I'm a comedy man here. Absolute comedy man. Look, QPR scoring 6 goals. They had 6 touches in the Portsmouth box, Ryan.
Yeah.
6.
The stats for this game are very strange, aren't they?
Fucking ridiculous. They had 9 shots. 8 of them were on target. Portsmouth created a higher XG.
Portsmouth had 20 shots, by the way.
What's happened? What has happened?
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a joke, but Nick Schmidt was at fault for 4, 5 goals.
I'm not sure he actually was. I think most of them are just very clinical goals, in fairness to QPR.
Maybe they were, but it's just one of those anomaly type games where everything went in from a QPR point of view, who suffered the same fate earlier on in the season where they got absolutely hammered to Coventry, and we're sort of sat here thinking Coventry have had 8 shots here and they've scored 7 goals. What's going on? It's just a weird bit of football irony, but Portsmouth are on the other end of it. And look, it's very obvious because QPR scored a lot of goals and they didn't have many shots, nor did they have many touches in the Portsmouth box. But those goals came from things breaking down further up the pitch, which is what you can start to assess. So yes, it was a bad performance from Portsmouth. The scoreline would suggest that, and it does suggest that.
Yeah, well, I think this was, as you say, one of those drubbings where one team was amazingly clinical, and that's not to take away from QPR because they took their chances incredibly well. But let's make absolutely no mistake about it. Portsmouth were appalling in almost every single aspect. They were struggling to put passes together. They were making stupid errors. It was bad. Cue chance of you're not fit to wear the shirt. We're going down with the Wednesday. And that was only after 30 minutes where we started hearing those chants, by the way. It got pretty toxic as time went on, and the afternoon was summed up with flipping Ibu Adams in tears after the game when he was clapping the fans. The whole thing, not good for Justin. Not good for Portsmouth, Justin.
It's good for me because I got QPR as my outsider, so I'm very happy, Ryan. Apologies, Portsmouth fans, but I can understand the anger and frustration because this has been building up over weeks where Portsmouth have been endless in their endeavour, but coming up very, very short. And this was one where they came up very, very short in every department. And you can maybe look at the stats of the game and go, well, actually, QPR did a job on Portsmouth. They scored 3 goals in quick succession in the first half, and that did them in, and therefore they can take the foot off the gas. And what happens after that is somewhat unfortunate in that QPR had their scoring boots on. But like you said, Portsmouth were poor in every department here, and you can understand why fans are angry and frustrated. I think a lot of that goes to it's just a bad timing coming off the back of a Derby performance where Derby came up with Portsmouth, Derby have invested, and they are reaping the rewards of it, whereas Portsmouth has still tried to be almost too savvy, too smart with their recruitment, and they are now hovering dangerously and off the back of a poor defeat. The only solace I can give Portsmouth fans is I have this theory that teams do well after they concede a lot of goals in games. QPR, after Coventry put 7 past them, won the next 3 games. And likewise, Portsmouth lost 6-1 away at Stoke last season. They picked up 4 points over the next 2 games. So maybe the grass is greener after the international break.
Maybe. It can't get much worse than this, can it? That's one
It
thing
really
you can
can't.
say. Yeah, it does feel like a new low for Portsmouth. Just been informed by Mentok on YouTube. QPR have just scored another goal. So there you go. Yeah, but as I say, it does feel like a bit of a new low for Pompey, and it's not a great time in the season for that low to come about, is it? Because, and I said it a few weeks ago, for the most part, Portsmouth haven't been that bad this season. I mean, if it wasn't for Leicester's points deduction, they would be in the bottom 3 right now. But up until the last couple of games, they've had a fair few occasions recently where their performances deserved better. We covered the loss to Derby on Monday. They could have been playing until Tuesday morning and they wouldn't have scored. This was just the absolute pits, and it feels like all these different factors are conspiring against them now because they've been blighted by injuries. Players have seen their form drop off a cliff. The recruitment has been very mixed, hasn't it? And one thing we've got to say is I think we've got to criticise John Mousinho as well, because he's someone we both like as a manager, Justin, but he just seems pretty lost at the moment. I mean, Ibu Adams as a number 10 and putting John Swift a bit deeper just seems like a balmy decision, whichever way you look at it. But over the last 2 games, Portsmouth have had 47 shots and scored 1 goal. Now, in most cases, you would point to the players not putting away their chances, but they haven't really been chances. Almost all of these shots have been punts from distance. They haven't been carving out opportunities. And when Portsmouth get into the final third, they just seem to have no idea what to do next. And well, I think the personnel is a reason why they're struggling in that regard. It also falls to the manager. But look, the bottom line is Portsmouth were in a good position a couple of weeks ago. Now they're 21st, 1 point outside the bottom 3, and appear to be heading in the wrong direction.
Well, it's not looking healthy, is it? I would defend John Mousinho because what can he do with the personnel available to him? I mean, Colby Bishop's dreadful. He's been dreadful all season. He's conceded as many penalties as he had scored goals now this season, which is a terrible place to be. I think his goal was a penalty as well, actually. In terms of deploying Ibu Adams as a number 10, I do see logic. Paul Warne did it a couple of times for Derby, got really good reward from it.
It didn't do him much good here, though, did it, Justin?
No, it didn't. It didn't, and that's where you can start to maybe microanalyze a little bit too much. But in terms of personnel, if I'm trying to initiate a press and push higher up the pitch, I'd rather have Ibu Adams in that role than John Swift. So I do see some logic, but it backfired, and this is what happens. That being said, I think John Swift's a poor player at this level, and for him to still be operating at this level at this point is that's where Portsmouth are. Jacob Murphy, I think, is in a position they're really missing him. They're really missing his directness. They're really missing his crossing ability, and that's something that they are really, really lacking. So I think that's a key thing that you've got to look at with Portsmouth is they're losing or have lost so many key players, and that's a big problem. And John Mousinho's picking up the pieces, and I think criticism at this moment is pretty unfair.
I think you're being very generous to him there. First of all, I will say it's Josh Murphy, not Jacob Murphy. Easy mistakes to make.
All the time.
But I think you can't completely excuse him of criticism because while I get that he's been blighted by injuries and the squad isn't the strongest, they should be still achieving more than they are, especially when they were doing that earlier in the season. But at the end of the day, I think the international break has come at a good time for them, more so than anyone else at the bottom, because they need this time to reset. I got a comment here from Charlie who says, as a Charlton fan, I'd be worried about Pompey. Mentally, that loss could see them relegated. They have a horrible run-in too. And another thing is, Ibra Adams might be injured now, because part of the reason why he was in tears after the game is down to an apparent knee injury. And if that's the case, then I'm very, very worried about Portsmouth, because he's been their best player by a considerable distance ever since joining them, hasn't he? So, yeah, a lot of things not going Portsmouth's way. Well, the big winners of the weekend, as far as the relegation battle is concerned, were West Bromwich Albion. They made it back-to-back wins for the first time since August with a 1-0 victory away at Bristol City. This was also West Brom's first away win in the league since the start of October. 3-word review for West Brom. Dan says, we're back again. For Bristol City, Daniel says, on the beach. Phil on our Patreon says, absolute fucking disgrace. MJC on our Patreon says, football is my arse. Spudwave on our Patreon says, fuck off, Lansdowne. So they seem happy, don't they? A great result for West Brom, though, Justin. The only disappointment they could possibly take away from this game is that they didn't win it by more.
Yeah, you bang on there. They were brilliant here. To have 19 shots away from home and your only goal of the game come from a fantastic header from George Campbell is somewhat frustrating, but does it matter when you're winning games and keeping clean sheets? Because that's the positive here for the Baggies. And like you said, it's the first away win since the start of October 1st. It's absolutely massive for a team who have been starved of what it feels like, the emotion and everything that comes with winning a game of football. And that's massive, and it pays dividends. And the momentum swing in West Brom's favour, they are chalk and cheese above everybody else down there, and that's full credit to James Morrison for turning it around. But this performance was superb, and like you said, the only disappointment is they didn't come away with 2 or 3 extra goals, because it really could have been that sort of game for the Baggies. Brilliant.
Well, let's get it right. Bristol City were absolutely shocking.
Oh yeah,
we've had a fair few teams who put in dreadful performances this weekend, and this is a leading contender for worst of the weekend, because it's quite a popular category this weekend. They offered absolutely nothing throughout this game. And if they were facing a better team than a team like West Brom, who, are near the bottom for a reason, then it could have been an embarrassing scoreline for Bristol City, and we'll talk more about them shortly. But it is a brilliant result for West Brom. I don't think they had to do an awful lot to win this, if I'm being honest, but they were without a doubt the deserved winners. Ultimately, they're at a stage where it doesn't matter how they do, they just have to get the results. And back-to-back wins for the first time since August. The only team in the bottom 11 to win, which is pretty mad. But Jimmy Morrison's boys suddenly look like they're shoring up on Safety Island, Justin, which is amazing. It's funny how quickly things can change, isn't it?
It is, but the key difference is he's just simplified things. Callum Stiles pointed it out in the presser after the game yesterday. He's just playing players in the right position. And there's a bit more nuance to it than that, but essentially it's just simplified things. And points wise, you can make the argument, as I mentioned a moment ago, is West Brom, in contrast to Blackburn, Leicester, Oxford and Portsmouth, they look so much better in their quality, their organisation, their structure, their intensity in games. They're miles ahead of the teams that are around them. They just need to have that quality going forward and really punish the teams that they did come up against, because it wasn't a game where Bristol City were going to get back into it, but a 1-0 lead is it's a tight game, isn't it? It's things precarious. So that's something you can learn from this. But the way Morrison's got more quality out of the team, and the way he's using the squad as well, I think is something that shouldn't be overlooked. What he's done is tremendous, and like you said, or like we said in recent weeks, West Brom look miles ahead of where they were even just 3 weeks ago. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, we should make it clear they've still got a way to go until they're officially safe. They're only 4 points clear still, but yeah, the turnaround is remarkable, because things were so low at the end of that disastrous Eric Ramsey reign. The players looked completely lost, and while this wasn't the most polished of wins here against Bristol City, the belief is clearly there now. They are working tirelessly and putting up a fight. And I know those just sound like buzzwords, but genuinely the difference between West Brom under James Morrison now to just a month ago is gigantic. And they've still got work to do to get safety over the line, as I say, but it definitely feels like West Brom are on the right track now when, as you were alluding to, so many others aren't. And for that, you've got to take your hat off to James Morrison. And another thing to be said is if he wants the job full time, he's putting forward an excellent case for himself, isn't he?
He is. He is. There will be an overwhelming burst of positivity, and rightly so. But the results are positive, like I said, because things are simplified. They're making use of set pieces, a couple of chances from long throws, and obviously the goal kick from a corner. They're playing players in the right positions. Went to a 4-4-2 various points as well. But just because there's a surge in positive form doesn't mean an interim should be offered the full-time role. I don't want to discredit the work that James Morrison has done, but this should be a firstly full focus on getting out of the relegation battle and be comfortable. But also they've made two big errors in the last two managers they've appointed. James Morrison having a successful time gives them a bit more buffer to really think about things and really think about how they want things to look going forward. So let's not get hasty. Let's just keep things grounded.
Yeah, well, the players clearly love him, don't they? That's pretty obvious to see. It does feel like the classic case of interim manager comes in who is well liked by the players and they suddenly start performing for them. Will that affect continue in the long term? Swansea fans may have something to say about that, but so far under Morrison, he's doing what was asked of him, and that's all he needs to do right now. Let's talk Bristol City, Justin, because they continue to be a very curious case. There were loud boos at various stages of this game, chants against the owners, supporters, clearly not very happy with their team here and how much things have dropped off. It's now 5 losses in their last 6. And we have spoken before about what's going on there. This frustration has been bubbling for a while after the 3 transfer windows where they've spent very little money. They've not built upon the success of last season. And it feels like things are now reaching a boiling point with Bristol City, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we know the Lansdowne, they're looking for investment. We're aware of this. They've made that fairly obvious, haven't they? But that still doesn't mean you don't have to build on the positivity that you've built so far. Last season was brilliant, but clubs this season especially look like they're leaving Bristol City behind, and that's probably where the frustration is starting to boil over. I'm just looking at the squad at the moment. I mean, Scott Twine's dipped in form, but he's got quality. But the forward line is something that I would bring to attention, and I have done for a while. Relying on Emil Rees and Sinclair Armstrong to be your main strikers is a problem because they're both second strikers. They're both, they at this level probably should be a backup to the main forward, and Bristol City have relied heavily on them, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. They've not been helped by injuries, but at the same time, they're being left behind by clubs that are around them, and that's the key point. And the reason why that's happening is because clubs are investing smartly, and hopefully going to pay dividends for it. And in Bristol City aren't, as I say, being left behind, and that's a problem.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to tell Bristol City fans how to feel because they can feel how they want. From my point of view, the frustration there does feel a bit out of proportion with what's actually going on because the owners aren't exactly running the club into the ground. The Lansdownes have put a lot of money into the club and they clearly care about it. They don't want to spend beyond their means, and that is good. They've been sensible owners. Have they got some things wrong? Of course they have, and that's why their season has fizzled out like it has. I can understand the frustration because I think ultimately the Lansdownes have just taken them as far as they can. I think they probably need a new set of eyes to come in, a new wallet to come in, and if Bristol City are ever going to break through that glass ceiling, then it's only going to happen with new owners, I think, because with where they're currently at, I can't see them making that breakthrough anytime soon. And that's probably where the frustration comes from as opposed to anything with regards to actually what's going on the pitch. Let's get back onto the relegation battle. And it's just 1 win in 14 for Leicester City after they drew 0-0 at Watford. Not a great result for Leicester, made worse by the fact that they really should have won this, Justin.
Yeah, they should have. It was when you look at the balance of the game, they had plenty of chances. Obviously, had the missed penalty as well, and you sort of again probably similar to a few teams like Middlesbrough. You sort of sat saying the same thing again, where there's not been enough quality in the final third, and that's really harmed them. I think the way they approached the game, there's nothing wrong with it, but the the chances they created, that was a big thing. And then all that does is just put emphasis on what didn't happen in the summer, where Jamie Vardy leaves, there's no replacement, and they are sat with the same mess that's got them relegated. And that's a problem. There's a lack of quality in the final third. It's been the case all season. They're strapped for cash, so they didn't sign anyone experienced or competent in the final third. And like I said, they're relying on players who haven't done anything in a Leicester shirt at any point. That's made worse by the penalty miss as well. So that's where I'm assessing this game. And this all happened in the same weekend where Jamie Vardy grabbed an assist for Cremonese as well. So he's still contributing at the tender age of 38, 39.
Hey, nothing can stop the goat, mate. I wouldn't take any notice of that. But yeah, Watford are a strange side, aren't they? Because one minute they're beating Wrexham, and you're thinking, oh, maybe they can still do something this season. And then they're drawing with Leicester, drew with blooming Sheffield Wednesday not long ago, didn't they? They're just a very hard team to nail down. But yeah, Leicester had by far the better chances in this game. In fact, Ed Still even admitted the Watford keeper Selvik won them the point. And you mentioned the missed penalty. You posted the brilliant video on the second-tier socials, Justin, of Leicester fans singing "If Daka scores, we're on the pitch." Just as he was about to take the penalty, spoiler alert, Leicester fans were not on the pitch. And then Daka missed another chance in the second half with a diving header from 6 yards out. Ben Nelson missed a sitter with literally the last kick of the game. Yeah, a big missed opportunity for Leicester here. I think they can take encouragement from the performance because, as we say, they probably should have won. But 1 win in 14, that's not going to keep you up, is it?
You need wins. And this team's not getting them. 1 win in 14's relegation form, and it feels like this squad's made for it. To be honest with you, it's genuinely actually a little bit pathetic that they're in this position. I don't say that at a critical point. It's just time and time again, you're looking at players to step up. You're looking at players to be counted. Look at George Campbell at West Brom, for example. He scores the own goal against Sheffield United. Then he goes up the other end and scores a screamer. He's been brilliant defensively, and then he scores a winner against Bristol City. These are players that are stepping up, and when the marginals are so small, so tight down at the bottom of the table, small things do it. That extra running those extra hard yards, that all really does count. And I just don't think this Leicester squad's got the mental drive to do it, because relegation has become a hobby. It's become second nature to this squad. They suffered 2 in 3 years. They could well suffer a third and fourth. It's just feels like there's no heart, there's no passion, there's no leadership, and this is where we got. 1 win in 14, games are tight. You need players to step up. Leicester don't have that.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you say there. It does feel like someone needs to save them. Someone needs to step up and make themselves counted, because Rowett has tightened them up at the back. That was one of their big issues, but attacking threat is just such a big issue. And yes, they had the opportunities here, which is more than you could say about some of their recent games, but all the confidence, all the attackers seem so low on confidence. Pat Sadaka being the key example there, did seem like a bit of a strange decision to let him take the penalty, but basically someone has to step up in an attacking sense in these final 7 games. Earlier in the season, it was Jordan James. Abdul Fatawu has done it on occasion. If they're not doing it, who else will? That would be a concern for me amongst many concerns with Leicester City. One thing I'll say about Leicester is their remaining games are probably one of the kinder sets of fixtures. They've got Preston, Swansea, Portsmouth, Blackburn, and most importantly of all, their Sheffield Wednesday voucher is still in their back pocket. But they can't keep pissing around. Draws are better than nothing, but wins are proving to be a real struggle, and that at this stage is what is going to keep Leicester up. They can't draw their way to survival, can they? Oxford suffered their first defeat in 5 games by losing 2-0 at Southampton. 3 red reviews for Southampton. Andy says, what a hit. Toby says, Shay Charles, wow. Cal says, Shay Charles, beauty. There's only one place to start here, Justin. Talk to me about that Shay Charles goal.
Honestly, it might be my goal of the season. It's in my top 3 thinking, but just to hit it, and it wasn't a power driver. He didn't just put his foot through it like some would claim in with different distances. The swerve on it was beautiful. It looked like it was going wide, and it was just a tremendous strike. And in true Shea Charles fashion, it was with great composure, but from 35 yards out. It was unreal. Really bad pass from Cameron Archer as well, because he had to go backwards a little bit. He had to
Yeah,
adjust himself a bit.
I did think that. Cameron Archer's got the assist, but I've no idea what the plan was from that corner. I think he's completely messed it up.
Such a shit corner. Yeah, Shea Charles doing that just completely messed over what was a complete failure of a set piece. But honestly, a brilliant goal, and there are so many angles of it that are on the second tier socials. Please divulge. Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the replay from behind the strike. I'm pretty sure you need age verification to watch that nowadays. It is an unbelievable strike. You could do that. That's one way of getting around it. But yeah, Shea Charles, take a bow. What a goal. Is it goal of the season? I think that Josh Tymon volley for Swansea is still the standout for me, but this is definitely up there because it is an absolute stunner. As for the game itself, Justin, you got to say Southampton deserved the win, but I thought Oxford gave a good account of themselves.
It's all you can ask for from an Oxford point of view. They're way more competitive now than they were, especially in recent weeks. Good recruitment in January will do that, along with a head coach who's, I think, renewed the belief in the players, which can come with a new head coach. But you're looking at this game, they conceded from a set piece with the Larian goal, and they conceded from a wonder goal as well. They had the moments, but they were short on quality, and that's the way to measure them in this one. Will Lancashire had a 1-on-1. Which he really fluffed up, and it kind of sums that up. That was at 2-0, so whether they got back into the game is another story, but they gave a good account of themselves. But Southampton, you can see, are just in a really good moment where they don't have to do a lot to win a game of football because everything's positive, confident, and flying.
Yeah, Southampton were, by and large, pretty comfortable here, but if that Lancashire chance gets put away, it could have been a very nervy one for the final 20 minutes or so. But yeah, Southampton unbeaten in 14 now, well on course for a playoff race, even if all the teams around them won as well. Not a huge amount of damage done to Oxford's survival hopes. As I said earlier, West Brom were the only team in the bottom 11 to win, so it could have been a hell of a lot worse. Just goes to show how far off the pace Oxford were, that they've won 10 points from a possible 15 and they're still in the bottom three. Maybe they would have got a result, Justin, had Southampton not moved the advertising hoardings closer to the pitch. The ground staff did it before the game to stop Oxford's long throws, which isn't an original idea, Justin, but is always very funny.
It is good. Sunderland did it last season against Coventry, if I remember rightly.
In the playoffs.
Ban it, Ryan. Ban it. And do you know why it should be banned?
Why?
Because this is what you get for building big soulless stadiums where the fans are so far away from the pitch. If this was at the Dell, you wouldn't need to move advertising hoardings because a touchline was basically in the stands.
Well, I guess that's one way of looking at it. I did look at the hoardings in quotation marks. I'm pretty sure an Oxford player could just move them out the way. I assume they're allowed to. Yeah, it's just it looked like a bit of cardboard. So surely you could just pick that up and go, okay, now I'll take the throw in. But I don't know what the rules are around that.
In really petty fashion, Matt Bloomfield was complaining about the safety of his players, which I found really funny and really moany, but also in the wake of that Galatasaray player almost losing his thumb, maybe justified.
Maybe. Southampton also put the Portsmouth score on the scoreboard at full time of this game, which is just good content all around. And we'll finish off with Derby County because it's now 4 wins in 5 for the mighty Rams after they beat Birmingham 1-0. 3 reviews for Derby. Janos on our Patreon says, sweet Brady tears. Tim says, no fear football for Birmingham. Freddie says, absolutely bloody hopeless. Joe says, Chris Davis goodbye. ICW says, Control Alt Delete. Yeah, we were both at this game, Justin, and we both said exactly the same thing afterwards. Birmingham City were by far the worst team we've seen at Pride Park this season.
Yeah, they were. And it's quite annoying, really, because the way Derby start games, it's no secret. They start really, really poorly and they give teams chances. But Birmingham was shockingly bad. And the game plan from a Derby point of view was very different because they pressed Birmingham. But from their point of view, I had no idea what their game plan was because they would just play it out from the back quickly, but they would eventually go long anyway.
Yeah.
I don't
know what the game plan was. I thought it was to sit back and then break, but then when they did have the ball, they were holding on to it and then they would just lump it up anyway. It was very, very strange.
But they were playing a 3-4-3, which again I didn't understand because Osman was on at left wing back. And he was so exposed because Joe Ward had an absolute field day getting into really good crossing positions. Ethan Laird was absent going forward and defensively. And in the midfield too of Pauke and Iwata were dominating. Man for man, the matchup was really poor from a Birmingham point of view. Game plan didn't exist. But also, I think it was sort of minute 55, Chris Davies made 3 changes. He brought on the big guns of Vicente, Prisk, and I can't remember the other one that came on. But he brought them on, and again, they didn't. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. They just had a bit more territory, and that was it. This was such a bad performance that I was so comfortable. Derby didn't have a shot. Didn't concede a shot on target. It was pathetic from Birmingham, really.
Yeah, but Birmingham didn't have a shot in general until the 65th minute, which says a lot, doesn't it? But yeah, it was one of the easiest afternoons Derby will have all season. They didn't have to do an awful lot to win the game. And keep in mind, Birmingham had to win this to really stand any chance of realistically still finishing in the playoffs. And they were terrible, hence why there were loud boos at half-time and full-time, chants of sideways and backwards everywhere we go after 53 minutes. And the meltdown from Birmingham fans online has been very real because their season is effectively over now. And the reality of it is that Birmingham's season has been ended by the manager they sacked for not having a no fear playing style. Cue John Eustace saying after the game that Derby played with no fear. And he did it very subtly, but we all knew what he was doing, old Johnny Eustace.
I was so excited. I pulled my car over and sent you a voice note.
Yes, you were very excited.
But honestly, it's quite funny in a footballing sense that Birmingham still haven't bettered John Eustace because, of course, they sack him, get Wayne Rooney, get relegated, have a season in League One, and then they come up into the Championship and are still behind the manager they sacked for better things. Now, make no mistake, John Eustace probably isn't the future for Birmingham City and never was, but
I'm not sure I agree with that. He could have been.
It could have been, but it was never going to be the case. He'd be doing much better now with this Birmingham squad than Chris Davies is because John Eustace can adapt, and that's what we saw here. The game plan was different to the one we're used to seeing because he pressed Birmingham very, very high, but Chris Davies is stuck in this rut of a system that doesn't work, he's probably going to get sacked at some point. But with John Eustace, he's very right to have a dig because, as I say, he was sacked for less really, but yeah, credit to him. He's got the last laugh, hasn't he?
Got a comment here from Jaden who says no one is talking about Derby. I feel like they could be a dark horse next season. Maybe even promotion is on the cards. Unreal team. Whether that's the case with Chris Davies and Birmingham, not sure, because I think it's fair to say we've grown to be Chris Davies skeptics as the season has gone on. Many Birmingham fans feel that way as well. There are many who defend him as well, but the bottom line is that Tom Wagner, the Birmingham chairman, said in January that the goal was to finish in the playoffs this season. That is almost certainly not happening now, let's be honest. And I can understand his defenders who will say those expectations were unfairly high for a side who had just been promoted from League One. But as I've said, at Derby games, I sit where the substitutes warm up. And I was looking at the players going past me. You've got Kyogo Furuhashi, who joined for a deal reported to be worth up to £10 million. Vicente cost £7 million. Prisk cost £6 million. These players are on the bench and aren't being started. What's going on? Now, Birmingham's recruitment team, have they got to take the blame? Yeah, absolutely, because they've essentially signed a whole new squad and not many of them have paid off, have they? But whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision, like you, I'd be stunned if Chris Davies survives this. I'm not saying he's going to go next week, but I'd be very surprised if he's in charge next season because that's it. Birmingham's season is over now, isn't it? Let's go to the polls just in this part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on YouTube because we want to get their thoughts on everything going on from across the Championship. So the first question we put out is this: how would Millwall get on in the Premier League? Straight back down, scrap their way to survival, finish comfortably.
Top 8.
Top 8. Finish comfortably, Justin is saying, and more. 68% of people said straight back down. 26% said they'll scrap their way to survival. 6% said finish comfortably. Second question: what will happen to Middlesbrough come the end of the season? Be in the playoffs, go up automatically, miss out on the playoffs completely? That seems ambitious. Producer Chaz flipping heck. Is it possible? I don't know. Justin, what do you think?
You said like a Newcastle fan, that right? I think they'll finish in the playoffs. This drop off in form is horrific, and Ipswich have got the upper hand.
Yeah, I would go playoffs as well, and that's what everyone else is saying. 79% said playoffs, 15% said go up automatically, 6% said miss out on the playoffs completely. I don't think that's going to happen. Make that clear. Final question: should that Shea Charles strike win goal of the season? Yes or no?
No, because I can't remember the three that I had in my top three. So there might be better ones in there. So
Fair enough. I still think that Josh Tymer one's the one for me. Lionheart says Caleb Taylor's long range strike for Millwall against Southampton.
That was naughty. That was
also a very good goal as well. 17% of people said yes. 83% said no. It's not goal of the season, but it still deserves a lot of credit because what an absolute banger it was. Ladies and gents, this has been the Second Tier Podcast. If you're a patron, subscriber, or a YouTube community member, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call some more time. We'll be talking about who's been player of the season in the Championship this season. If you're not signed up yet, audio listeners can head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. And for YouTube viewers, just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button on our channel page. We'll be going live in a separate stream in just a few minutes' time. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.